Welcome to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast, providing business owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs with the 3 INs: insights, inspirations, and intentional actions. Delivered through monologues and dialogues, we address topics like leadership, productivity, time management, work-life balance, and challenges like stress, conflict, mental health, and much more. Please do not hold back from suggesting specific topics and guests you would like on this podcast. Greetings and welcome to this episode. As you know, probably by now, every second week I have a guest on to spice it up a little bit so you don't have to just listen to me. And today I'm really excited about having Tony here. So welcome, Tony, and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do with your life.
Well, that's a high energy introduction. Thanks, Mikhail. It's wonderful to be here. It's lovely to have the opportunity to talk to you. About me, 54 years old, born and bred in the South Island, around Blenheim and Picton, and in a place called Renwick, little town just outside of Blenheim. 6 children in total. We've got a blended family, so 3 of my own that range from 10 to 28. So there's a decent span there. And my partner, she has 3 sort of grown children of her own. So yeah, we have 6 children, very busy household, grandchildren as well. Living in sunny Papamoa. So for me, I've been here about 3 years, I guess. I've lived here before, and I absolutely adore the lifestyle here. I adore the temperatures, the people, the vibe, everything about it. And it's a great place to do business. A lot of like-minded people and what have you here. So I am a contract manager currently with a couple of CEOs positions at the moment. I also have my own company. So it's a very busy life, Mikhail. Very busy life for us, but a wonderful life.
Thank you for that. What I love about that, when people often, when I ask them how they are, oh, really busy. And my first question is always, so is that a good busy or a poor busy? Is that a stressful busy or a happy busy? And mostly people sort of just pause for a moment and then reply to that. So I don't have to ask you that because you already answered that. It's a
Yeah.
good busy, and busy is good if it's good. If it's stressful busy, no, not so much. Which ties into the podcast here, which is all about mental fitness. So we love to hear stories. So I'm going to ask you to tell us a couple of stories of the 2 sides of the coin of mental fitness, those stories where we end up in crappy, uncomfortable, painful situations because we didn't have the mental fitness to deal with them at the time. And the other side of the coin is those where we end up creating successes and achieving stuff because we have the mental fit or had the mental fitness to be able to meet the challenges of reaching those achievements. So I will leave it up to you to choose what side of the coin you want to start on, but give us some stories from your life.
Wow. This would take hours. If I had stories from my life, I was to bundle them all up, Mikhail, and try and lay them out, we would need a number of podcasts. I want to go backwards first. I've lived a reasonably extreme life. The things that I've chosen to do, life was always busy. It was always based around adrenaline and on the go, on the go, on the go. And so for me, mental fitness, I now understand what mental fitness, or I believe I understand what it is now. And it's safe to say I probably didn't possess mental fitness up until recently. And I think that's life, man. You go through life and you deal with things. Look, I said my oldest son is in his late 20s now, and that was a result of a marriage breakup in my early 30s. Work challenges, life challenges, all those things that come together. I think in life, I never stopped to think about mental fitness. I never stopped to think about the state of my own mind throughout that entire transition until I was forced to, I guess, Mikhail. And if there's one story I'm going to hinge on, I'm not saying it was the possibly the biggest challenge that I faced in my life, but what it was for me was an opportunity to face it for the first time. And for me, that would be around my relationship split, which occurred about 6 years ago with the mother of my 2 children, who are now 10 and 13, about to turn 11 and 14. My goodness, it's gone fast. And for me, the reason I lean on this is because that occurred when I think it was about 49, Mikhail, roughly when that occurred. and I it broke me. And I don't think it was that individual thing that broke me. What I think it was the culmination of 30 years, 40 years of events that broke me.
Mm,
And they all came together in one incident. And ultimately, when I was broken, it was at that point where I can't even, over the last couple of days going into this podcast, I've been trying to get my head around what caused me to go, I can't keep doing this. I don't remember, but I do know there must have been something inside of me that went, I can't keep doing this in my life. I'm in my late 40s. I've ended another relationship, and for whatever reason, it was time to do something about it. And I can't pin anything in particular on why it was time to do something about it. It was just time to do something about it. Emotionally, I was a wreck. Physically, I had some issues, and I was then separated from my children and looking at life going, how do I want to live this last part? I mean, let's be honest, at 50 years old, you're two-thirds of the way through the journey. So I've got one third left, and let's be honest here, it's not the highest quality third, is it? So it was like, what is this going to look like? What's this last third going to look like, I guess? And hindsight's a wonderful thing. When I look back on it now with what I perceive the tools that I now have in my toolbox to deal with those things, I should have seen this coming 10, 20, 30 years ago, Mikhail, I
mm,
guess. But you just let them build up and build up and build up. And so the relationship split was a catalyst, I think, for change for me.
mm,
And it was difficult, man. I was struggling, as you know, I was struggling to deal with it, really struggling to deal with it. And like I said, yeah, that was the catalyst for change for me.
mm. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of you out there can relate to this in some ways. Like what stood out for me and what you were sharing, Tony, is I think a more common language for it is that the cup is overflowing. And again, it's not like one thing that is causing us into that place of suddenly going, I have got to do something about this. It is typically a bunch of things over years that is building up. And then at some point, and then often what we will do is we will blame the thing that just at the moment made it happen and not realizing that it's not necessarily that thing in and of itself. It's more the build up and that build up happens because we don't have the mental fitness to deal with it along the way. So eventually it will build up. And for some, it builds up in a physical blowout and disease and like things not being able to sleep or drinking too much and that sort of stuff. And for others, it shows up more in anger tantrums or in depression, whatever
Yeah,
our tendencies are. So I like what you're saying. It sounds like you were forced to start looking at mental fitness or looking at a solution. And in a way, you weren't. You got just carried on until you actually collapsed. But you were
yeah.
fortunate enough, for whatever reason, in that moment to have clarity enough to go, okay, so 30 years left. Am I willing to carry on this way? So, congratulations to you for seeing that.
Thanks, man.
Mm,
I don't think it was. It's. I don't take any credit from it because I don't think I had another option. I think, had there been a plethora of options on the table to choose from, Mikhail, it's highly likely that I would have chosen probably a different option to the pathway that I chose, which has required a lot of work
yeah.
and that's required a lot of unpacking
Mm,
of so many things,
mm.
man. So yeah, I'd love to take the credit for the fact that I chose this option, but the reality is I don't think there was another option on the table.
And that's great awareness, isn't it? Like when you get to the end of that no exit road that you thought was the right road to go down, when you get to the exit to the end of that road and see it's a dead end road, um, to me that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Because if you carried on in that road and you didn't get to that dead end until 10 years later, it most likely would have been a completely different scenario. So I encourage people to go down those no end roads, but go fast. Like get to the end as quickly as you can.
yeah, I
It's that place
understand
where
that.
there is no choice. I have got to do something here. The road is finished. So what am I going to do about that? So Tell us more. What happened then? Whether you want to continue that story or add in another story to the mix.
Look, that was the change. That's as I said, that was the catalyst for change, and that change has been ongoing over the last 6 years,
Mm,
obviously. And look, the best way to describe it to anybody listening, I guess, is hindsight is wonderful. I can look back now and see all of those various things. I can look back to 10 years before that incident. I can look back to 20 years before that incident. I can now see those things, and for me, I guess the hardest thing to do is I had no answers, so I didn't know where to start. But in a way, that was wonderful because I literally left myself open for the future. I was like, okay, well, whatever I've tried hasn't worked, so it's time to give someone else a go at driving this thing and see what they can help with. And I was fortunate, Mikhail, at that time to ultimately find you, and through a friendly contact that put me onto you. And I think the first thing was about letting go. For me, that was the first thing I remember, Mikhail, was letting go, letting go of the ego, letting go of the blame, letting go of everything. But it's what happened after that is the thing that makes me excited. You know, I also feel a little silly considering that all of this was possible beforehand, you know, but I didn't take that step. I don't think I know actually, I don't have to think about it. I know that I wasn't that person that was going to go, oh well, life's going well. I wonder how I can improve on it. Maybe I can improve on myself. So, whoa, I was never going to take that step. I'm not that. I'm not that person.
mm,
And so for me, I talk about this with friends. I had this amazing conversation with this guy yesterday, a business meeting, and he told me his story. He'd just been through a relationship split about a year ago, and his journey out of that, and how that was working out for him, including his personal life and his business life and everything. And they shared very similar things, but he said something which I thought was, for me, it resonated with me because it was exactly the same thing, or the point that I'd got to, was to accept responsibility for your own actions. And I remember the day that you actually you pointed that out, and I was sort of walked away from that, and was to accept your part in it. Not blame. I'm not talking about blame here. I'm not talking about attributing blame or accepting blame. I'm talking about accepting responsibility for your actions inside that. And that took a long time to unpack. But like all of the things we're hopefully about to talk about, it was like a flower opening. And it's the best way I can describe it. You get a tight bulb like this, and it goes boom, and then you start to accept responsibility for your own actions. And then boom, it opens up further. There's more to unpack, not less to unpack. There's more to unpack. When you accept responsibility for your actions and the actions or the result of your actions on other people, whether that be friends and family, environment, or what have you, it opens up further and there's more to unpack. You're making progress this whole way. And then the next thing, and then there's more to unpack, you
mm,
know? And that's what I consider to be the evolution of mental fitness, because it's like I liken it to physical fitness. So if you're a person who doesn't run, or you haven't run for years, or you haven't gone to the gym for years, you'll know that first meeting to the gym. Ow, ow, you touch it, ow, everything hurts as a result of it. That was your first meeting. But by week one, you're a little bit stronger. By week four, you're a little bit stronger again.
mm,
By week 6 or 8, oh my goodness, you're running 2 kilometers, not walking or dawdling along. You're running. And it's like, oh, I can run 2 kilometers. Before you know it, you're a year down the track. You're going to the gym 3 times a week. You're running 10 kilometers. You're feeling better about yourself. And I think that mental fitness is very, very similar analogy to physical fitness. There are gains to be made if you're consistent in your commitment
mm.
to the journey of mental fitness. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I couldn't have said it any better myself. So thank you for saying that. That's what mental fitness really is for me. Like it is a practice that you have to do. It's not something you just gain out of thin air one day and then you have it for the rest of your life. And again, that with the flower, once you're on this path of growth, you start discovering that there's so much more to grow. and it's like it's unlimited, so you will never get to a place where there's no more space for growth. It is just the way of life. And just to come back to one thing you said, and I'll put my own language to this, is that like yourself, like myself, mostly like really valuable growth doesn't come out of choice. It comes out of the shit hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is like, holy crap, right. Okay, maybe now I need to do something. When I got the ultimatum from my wife and say, sort your shit out or you have got to leave. It wasn't that she offered for her to leave with the kids. It was like, I have to leave. And I was like, okay. So I've had many of those in my life. And it's not that I kind of go, oh yeah, please give me another one because I want to grow more. But there's still a part of me because my mind knows the value of this. So it's like it almost attracts these situations into my life.
Mm.
However uncomfortable they are, but they're always valuable. And when you mention about openness, it is that you suddenly found yourself in a place of openness where you're okay. I haven't been able to figure this out. I'm just about to turn 50. Duh. Maybe I should ask somebody else. And we're living in a culture where it's like, well, you can ask other people for help with this, or to mow your lawns, or to help with your business, or your finances, or your accounting, but ask somebody else to help with your life. It's kind of, what's wrong with that's not okay. I don't know whether you're finding that yourself.
Completely. Completely. I share a story with a friend of mine who just couldn't have a successful relationship, just could not figure it out. Read the books, watched the YouTube videos, did all the stuff, just could not secure a successful relationship. So what did he do? He went and sought help to figure it out. And I remember when I first heard that story, I was like, who does that? Who sits there and goes, you know what? I can't figure this out for myself. I'm going to go ask somebody else and get their help. Look, brave, incredibly brave. And that person now has a very loving, very successful and blossoming relationship, you know, all because of the tools that he learned along that way. And he's very open about that as well. So am I about this as well. And one of the key things, Mikkel, for me was getting a coach like yourself who could step in and I think the difference that a coach makes is this. I think there's some coaches that maybe you don't identify with, and they maybe only take you so far. You know, there are some coaches that you can really identify with, or that they suit you, or they're able to adapt to you, but whatever skills they have, they complement your situation.
Mm.
And for me, I was lucky that way. That obviously I found someone who could complement my situation, who understood me, who didn't judge me. Because that was one of the biggest things was being judged, feeling like you're being judged because you feel like an idiot. You know, I've got this far and I still haven't figured it out. And it's frustrating for someone like me who's a high performing individual. I'd had a lot of success in business. I'd had a lot of success in my work. I'd had a lot of success in sport. I had a lot of success in, I would choose something and go, oh, that's what I want to be, or that's what I do. And I could make that happen,
Mm.
almost like a magic wand. But there's some things I couldn't figure out at all. And I'm not a reader. And so, in going to a coach was the biggest step that I'd made, that first initial step to actually get a coach because you can't see it. So, some people are self-aware. If there was a scale from 1 to 10 being one being completely unaware of oneself to 10 being completely self-aware, I'd be rocking a good 2.5. And that's probably giving myself some credit. To be honest, if you're not self-aware, you know, how do you engage in your own behavior? How do you modify your own behavior? How do you find those little things, those little snippets that unlock that next phase? And so for me, getting a coach was ultimately important in
Mm.
this journey.
And again, keeping tying this back to mental fitness, being self-aware actually takes mental fitness. Because when you start becoming aware of some of the deeper things about yourself, you're going to find things you don't like about yourself. And if you don't have the mental fitness to meet that in a compassionate way, where you can meet that with empathy towards yourself. You know, my wife and I is teaching a parenting course at the moment, and last night we had a session and it was about empathy. And I asked the audience, what do you find the easiest, to have empathy for other people or to have empathy for yourself? And immediately the answer was the same from the entire group, or others. It is
Yeah.
so much easier for most people to have the empathy for others, but for themselves, it's like they'll just slap themselves in the face instead of saying, "Oh, it's okay. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling stressed," and then have some empathy towards yourself for that. But again, that also takes mental fitness when we go down that road. So, would love
I
to.
was I
Yeah.
was one of those people, Mikkel. I was one of those people who beat themselves up. You know, if success didn't come fast enough, or the level of success wasn't high enough, or whatever, yeah, I would beat myself up. If I would look back on an incident and the way that I behaved or the way that I conducted myself, I would beat myself up. I wouldn't change anything. I would just beat myself up. It was the way it was. And 6 years down the track, now I'm really starting to see the benefits of being self-aware, things that had never considered in my life prior.
Mm. So that's a great lead into another story, and it can be a story that's a day old or years old, where you ended up creating some growth, some success, some achievement in any area of your life that wasn't easy, but you did it because you now had a higher level of awareness and a higher level of mental fitness to meet the challenges, whether they were internal challenges or external challenges. So, have you got a story for us?
Got lots. I've got lots. Let me start with the overview because for people listening or people that find this topic interesting, it didn't come straight away. That was the whole point. It didn't come straight away. It probably came and it's coming thick and fast over the last 12 months. I think it is. And that has something to do with the fact that again I've been working with you regularly, Mikhail, on this very thing. And so to unlock that next stage or that next thing. And so for me, when that flower opens like this and gets bigger and bigger and opens up, there's things as you unpack those that need to be dealt with. You can't just leave them, even if it's just a simple understanding of what those are. And understanding it allows you to assess it, to take the learnings from it. And so over the last 6 months, no, actually since the start of this year, I would suggest, I've had numerous moments where previously these things would never have entered my head before. A simple thing, and they're diverse. As simple things in a relationship with my partner. So being able to sit there, as opposed to getting angry about something that happened or something that they said or something that they did, is being able to talk about it and be open about talking about. See, that wasn't me, and that wasn't me at all. And then all of a sudden you find yourself sitting there for the possibly the first time in your life engaging in an intimate conversation. I'm not, when I say intimate, I'm not talking about obviously intimacy as such, but an intimate conversation where you're both very open
Mhm.
about the conversation. And then I walked away going, oh, I can do that. I can be like that. And is this how we deal with situations in a relationship? Now, as silly as it sounds to me, people probably laughing and they go, who's this numpty, you know? But for me, that wasn't a tool that I had. And so then it was like, okay, well, that was good. And the result of that was fantastic. So I'm going to work on that.
Mhm.
And next time this comes along, I know what to do. Next time it comes, I know what to do. I know what to do here. Be calm, be honest, and talk about it. Talk about the things. This is how I feel. This is how you feel. Now, oddly enough, as a I come from a corporate sales and marketing background. So when it comes to confrontation, employees, conflict, you have all the right words. Why? Because you sit in a position of authority. And that's the way that the structure is built. So I was able to navigate these situations in a work environment very easily. But when it came to a personal environment, no, it was not the case at all. And so then these things just continued to happen, more things. One of the key things I found, Mikhail, as you well know, is gratitude, the ability to feel gratitude. Gratitude for your situation, gratitude for the most simple things of all. The fact that your children are that are healthy and that they're happy. Gratitude for the small wins in life, to say thank you to whatever because of the gifts that you've been given through that. So that was another tool that came along, and it's an important tool to be grateful to those people that assist you and assist you around. And all of a sudden you find yourself in this, oh, what's this? This is another thing that I need to contend with. This
Mm.
is gratitude because gratitude's important,
Mm. It's a
you know?
very powerful tool, and it's a part of most spiritual practices in one way or other, uh,
Yeah,
for a good reason.
yeah,
It's a powerful tool, and I know I've shared this before. I'll just share it quickly again. So my wife and I at dinner time we do something called compost and daisies. Once we've done that, we have to share three things we are grateful for today, and one of those have to be related to the other person.
yeah.
And it's a very powerful thing to do. Also, just wanted very briefly to talk in or add something you talked about intimacy and not the physical intimacy, but the other side of intimacy, how important that is in relationship. And to me, it's not only important in our intimate relationships, it's also important in parenting. It's also important almost no matter where we go. And again, in order for us to have that more intimate connection with others, again, whether it's staff or colleagues, it requires mental fitness, because we have to be vulnerable in that. And then one last thing I would like to add to that, then if we take that and move it into physical intimacy, it is actually the same in physical intimacy as well. If we don't have the mental fitness to go into that deeply, then our physical intimacy becomes more average or more superficial and less fulfilling. So I just thought I wanted to throw that into the
Thanks,
mix.
Akim. I totally
Okay,
agree.
back to
You
you.
know, another thing that's come out of this whole thing, empathy. Em but not as you might notice it from what people traditionally believe it. Empathy goes into lots and lots of things, right? It's empathy for the situation that someone might find themselves at that time and date or place that you engage with them. It's empathy for the result of situations that occur. It's empathy for the things that someone's had to deal with. Empathy for their feelings. So although you may not agree with them at all, is being mature enough to have the empathy for how others feel, more mature to then to act on it and how you act or react to it. And that's been another key driver for me is around having empathy. Say, for example, someone turns up, a friend, a colleague, business colleague, whatever, and they're in a nasty mood. It just happens, you
Mhm.
know? But it's having empathy for that situation that they're in a nasty mood. And it's okay. You don't have to respond. In fact, you can actually go out of your way to make sure they're okay. Hey man, I noticed you. Are you okay? So as that flower opened up, I all of a sudden ended up with all these tools in the toolbox, and it was almost like getting your own toolbox. You had to pick it up and go, "What do I do with this? How useful is this to me? And what do I do with it?" It's interesting that I've got it. And then all of a sudden, you continue as long as you're committed to that journey, and that's the hardest thing, is because it's still unfolding now. It's still unfolding every week where something new happens, where
Mhm.
it's like, oh my goodness, I would not have acted or I would not have reacted like that. All these things are interconnected, and that's the one thing that surprised me more than anything, Mikhail, is
Yeah.
how interconnected all these various things is. It's not just one tool that stands alone. One tool activates another thing.
Mm.
That thing activates another thing. That thing activates another thing. And so when that opens up like this, you find yourself walking around almost constantly surprised by the result.
What a wonderful place to walk around in.
It's okay, man.
It's like toddlers, little kids. They're walking around in that world all the time. It's like, oh, that's exciting. Oh, that's exciting. Or they're in that place of wonderment.
Yeah.
And when I started learning to be able to do that as an adult, of stepping in and just looking at something simple, it might be a flower or a bird or something, and go, wow, wow, who invented that? Isn't that extraordinary? That is a completely different energy and a far more fulfilling energy to be in. So thank you for your story about your mental fitness helping your intimate relationship. Have you got a quick story about, since we are talking mostly to business people here, about some business achievement you have had this year where if it wasn't for the mental fitness, you wouldn't have achieved that?
Most definitely. Most definitely. So it's interesting to tie in. for where we are right now because, like I said, I feel like the majority of the growth has occurred in this last 12 months, but you couldn't get to that growth before that. And so it was fortunate at the time I have some contract roles and they're CEO roles, so that they carry a lot of responsibility is with that as well. So with that comes the leadership responsibilities, comes the responsibilities of the company, profit, loss, all the stuff that goes with it. Mikhail.
Mm.
At the same time, my own company literally took off from a fledgling sort of company into a raging success almost within weeks. And then I found myself in the space with two busy contract roles in my own company with our own staff and things going off, literally exploding underneath you. There is no way, Mikhail, that I could have dealt with any of this without having gone on this journey. I know that for one, and there's some basic things here. Number one, stress and anxiety,
Mm.
and how to deal with stress and anxiety. Now, one of the most simple things about dealing with stress and anxiety was around when I felt that anxiety was learning to breathe again. So finding myself short breathing. See, this is how I dealt with stress and anxiety. Go harder, go harder. Start to work longer hours, go harder, work on the weekends, not see anybody, don't go to social functions, blah, blah, blah. Get all the work done. That wasn't the answer at all, man. That was so not the answer. The first thing was to clear the mind, to clear the body. Like, breathe out, clear the body, get yourself back to a neutral place, and then look at your priorities. Okay, how do we deal with this? Deal with it with a calm, cool, clear head. And so you're not being activated by stress and you're not being pushed by stress and anxiety. You're being pushed by a calm mind that tells you this is what I need to achieve. And that's when everything else kicks in. We talk about the empathy side of things, having empathy for that situation and the others that are going through the same thing as you. So the whole team's on the same journey. Everyone's being stressed out. Okay. But now we have the empathy for the fact they're stressed out. How do we cater to that? How do we help them deal with that? How do we navigate that situation?
Mm.
And so what I found myself, Mikhail, was going back into that toolbox that we created and picking up the new tool that you had to deal with that situation. And so now it's about making cool, calm, clear decisions. And then there's another thing we discussed, being grateful for the opportunity that you've been given, that your company in a time where we're in a recession is literally exploding under your feet. And being grateful for the people that came on that journey with you. And then it comes back into empathy on yourself, being supportive of the relationship you have. Why? Because me in particular, my partner guided me through. It's been 5 years we've been working hard. So overnight success came after 5 years. It didn't come overnight, Mikhail.
Mm.
And then having the ability to understand that it's your partner that kept you going that whole time when you didn't have the tools, you
Mm.
know? And then what can I do for them? How can I not repay, but be a part of their journey? How can I? So you can see all of these things all come. Now, I didn't have those tools before all of this, Mikhail, and I know what would have happened. I would have worked harder. I would have been in exactly the same situation as I saw you 6 years ago because I just would have burnt myself out. And although we may have achieved success on the scoreboard, there would be a heavy toll of injuries to pay.
Yeah. What a wonderful story to share. And again, I believe that a lot of people can relate to that because I unfortunately see that in a lot of people. It is the way they deal with those situations just to go harder. So they're on a hamster wheel already, and
Yep.
they think if I just run faster, I'm gonna get off the hamster wheel without realizing that. Well, if you're on the hamster wheel, it doesn't matter how fast you run, you are still on the hamster wheel. Get
Yep.
off the hamster wheel. And I'm not against running fast. Like if you want to run fast, be my
Run
guest,
fast.
but don't run fast on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Run fast somewhere where you're actually getting somewhere. You can be driving a really fancy, really fast car, but if you keep going around the same circuit, you're not getting anywhere. You're just burning fuel and tires. So make
Completely.
sure you know where the car is going, in this case, where you are going. And when you have that clarity, you can go flat out or you can go slow. That's up to whatever suits your personality, but know where you're going. So again, it all takes mental fitness, and it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't just that mental fitness just arrived in your life and then everything was fine.
No.
It came in chunks, and it came through you experiencing and playing with it. And in that starting learning, ooh, I have this tool. Ooh, I can do this. Ooh, I can share that with other people. And ooh, that taught me that. And then it's kind of forth and back. And that's where the intimacy again is coming in, not physical intimacy, but intimacy in relation, even with colleagues and staff and contractors and customers.
Customers, yeah.
So you've already shared one tool that you used to grow your mental fitness, which was, get a coach. Of course, I can say that's a great idea just because I am a coach, but I've had many, many coaches in my life, and I still have coaches all the way along.
Yeah.
Even though I've been on this journey for 40 years, I still seek out coaches in various forms continuously. So that's a good one. Can you share with us another one or maybe two things that has helped you? You said you're not a reader, so it's probably not going to be a book, but something else that you have done over these 6 years that you have uh, opened and grown your flower, some tools that you have come across that could be a benefit to our audience.
Biggest thing that I would want to get across to people, Mikhail, is especially business leaders. Right? As a business leader, when you sit in a senior, you might be in a leadership position, you might be in senior management of a company, you might be a company owner and what have you. The hardest thing, Mikhail, through all of that was to ask for help.
Mm,
That was the hardest thing of all. I could talk about all these other little tools that I've learned, and they're numerous, man. But the hardest thing was to ask for help. Why? Because as the leader, as the senior manager, as the business owner, you're supposed to have the answers. And I often think that that's a fault if people believe that they have the answers because they don't. Not necessarily, not all the time. And so that was the hardest block was to ask for help. That was the very first thing. And if I could pass anything on to anyone, it's don't be scared to ask for help or seek help. Just seek the right help. Find the person that you gel with that you feel is contributing to your circumstance
mm,
and works with your personality and understands your situation. That's the key thing for me, because that was the first step, was to understand that you even need help and then to seek that help. And that can manifest itself in so many ways. It can manifest itself through stress or anxiety or pressure. And then all the other excuses, I can't afford to get help. Well, can you afford not to get help? At the same time. What is the priority for you in spending money on IT and tech and all that sort of stuff, and yet working on yourself with the right coach could advance you so much further than product development or people development, all the other stuff that goes with it, is to go and find that help. And as I said, it's not normal. It's not normal for males in general, let alone for leaders to go out there and seek out, especially later in life as I did it at 50 years old with the track record of success, to then seek help would seem unusual because it's easy enough to go, no, I'm doing well. Why? Look at my success, look at my positions, look at my roles, look at what I'm achieving, look at the things look at my assets, look at all the things that I've done. But all those are inconsequential.
yeah, and absolutely, and I have to say I've heard this before, and I've had a number of people on for these podcasts, and that seems to be one of the main things that keeps coming back, learning to ask for help.
Yeah,
Which naturally we can do, like a young child can naturally do that. But then depending on our culture, we might grow up and that is that you're supposed, particularly if you're in leadership, as you said, you're supposed to know. And then you can't show that you don't know. And then you have to pretend you know. And then you're already going down a slippery slope. And what I really like about what you also said, Tony, is that it's about finding the right person. So I'm going to claim that there is the perfect coach for anyone. No matter who you are, there will be somebody out there that is a perfect coach for you for this moment in your life.
yeah,
And that very likely might not be me, but there will be somebody. Just
yeah,
like for me as a coach, there will be somebody out there that is a perfect client for me. But
yeah.
not everybody is going to be the right client for me. And
No,
it's about finding that. And it's okay to go out and do some searching. And most coaches will go, yeah, I will catch up with you for 15, 20 minutes on a call and just let's meet for coffee. And in that, like you get that sense of, yeah, I think this is going to work. And so, oh yeah, maybe this could work, and then you make that decision in the moment. But that won't happen if you don't start asking, and if you don't have, as you said earlier, the openness to explore that. So thank you for sharing that. Anything else you
Uh,
would to add?
No, see, my journey to seek help was born out of desperation, Mikhail, and I don't want people to go through that. I know for a fact I don't have to look around my friends or the circle of colleagues and what have you, and there are people already in an unhappy marriage, in an unhappy situation, not happy with things. I just hope that people don't wait until the situation becomes desperate before they see, because there's no need to. I
Mm,
did because my ego was too large and I was too ignorant,
mm,
unfortunately, to go out there and do that. But one last key thing I want to share, Mikhail, is this. I have found so much joy in talking with other people about my faults and my issues because they have been shared around. And some of these people are close to me, and I had no idea until I opened up about it. You know, this is how I see the world. They're like, really? So do I. Oh, really? Has this happened to you? Yeah. And just being open about what you're doing. You don't have to share everything. Some people just don't want to hear some of that stuff. So choose what you share, that's for sure. But in terms of this journey, and again, it was a conversation yesterday over a business lunch where we discussed with this client, this is what I've been through. He was like, well, this is what I'm going through. And the third person at the table was like, I've been through that too. We had this 10-minute, really robust conversation around that, and it felt good.
mm,
It felt good to be open. It felt good to be honest. But in a way, you almost felt like you were sharing the load with these people. So those three things, man, is
mm,
number one is being open to seeking help. Find the right help. Don't if you meet with someone that's not you, move on. Be polite about it, obviously. You know. And then number three, don't be scared to share your journey with other people, especially those that are close to you. I think you'll be really surprised how many people are going through exactly the same thing as you. And I feel really privileged to be in the position I am now, to know these things, be aware of these things, and stay committed to that journey. Because that's another key thing, man. If you're going to do this, stay committed to it.
stick with
Keep
it.
doing it. Stick with it because it just keeps getting better and keeps
And
getting better and keeps getting better.
And that also requires mental fitness. So again, let's
Yeah.
just reiterate to our audience that mental fitness is not black and white. It's not something you have or you don't have. As you said, you were 2.5 out of 10 some years ago, and today your score will be much higher than that. And there will be some areas of your life where maybe the score is not super high, and there will be other parts of your life where you feel it's much higher. You can deal with
Yep.
things at a much higher level. And so again, it's not a black and white thing. It's a fluent thing, but it is something that we can keep working on and keep growing. And for me, that's the most important part. As long as we keep doing that, we will
Yeah.
keep opening that flower. We will find more bloom. We will find more beauty. We will find more magic. In that, and that's my experience. That's your experience. So to round off today, I always want to finish these podcast, if possible, with the question of transformation, because
Cool.
transformation is my passion. Change is good, but if I can pick between change, transformation, I will pick transformation any day. So, whatever that word means to you, please share with us one example of a transformation in your life, whether it's 30 years ago or it's 3 days ago, doesn't matter.
Well, Mikhail, the transformation has been a wholesale transformation. It hasn't.
I've never heard that one before. I like it. I'm gonna note that one down. Whole transformation.
Well, it hasn't been one thing. Like I said, one thing led to another thing, led to another thing. I had no idea what was in that suitcase as I'm packing it. I liken it to opening up an old wardrobe, Mikhail, and unpacking that wardrobe, man. You grab the next bag, look in the bag, what's in it? Oh, heck. The next bag, what's in it? And I know I'm part way through my journey. The transformation has been in energy, it has been in peace, it has been in love, it has been in intelligence, it has been in systems and processes. The transformations across the board as you learn to navigate a new tool. Look at those people that have found AI, then have learned AI. Oh, I've heard about AI, I've heard about AI. and they go on to Chat GPT. Wow, look what I can do with Chat GPT.
Mm.
Very similar to
Mm.
this situation. And so although I could sit here and say the transformation has been around this key thing or this key thing or this key thing, no, the transformation has been across the board because, it's been a physical fitness that occurred, having the mental ability to understand you have to look after yourself. I need to run this body for another 25 years. How do I do that? Oh, that has to be, you have to get yourself physically healthy and physically fit. Do the things inside the physically fit thing. The mental fitness is stress and it's anxiety. It's about how do I improve my relationships with my partner, with my colleagues, with my peers, with my friends, with my children. How do I engage with customers and clients? Blah, blah, blah. How do I just be a better person? How do I find peace?
Mm.
That's because ultimately that's what I'm looking for. I want peace, man. To finish
Mm.
a week at peace without feeling stressed or pushed. So all of that thing, a lot of it's holistic, I guess,
Mm.
Mikkel, but it's an overarching theme. So the transformation for me has been me.
Mm. I love
It-
that. I love that. And again, it's that's what I'm here for in my life because I had one of those 40 years ago, and it wasn't anything specific in my life that changed. It wasn't work, it wasn't a relationship or marriage or health. I transformed without knowing at the time.
yeah,
It was just wow. And I started looking at the world like, gee, what happened here? And then from that, it grew.
yeah,
And it's still growing today, 40 years later. So thank you for sharing that. I think
of
it's really
course.
important to understand that yes, we can absolutely create transformations in money or in relationships or in work or in health, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if we can change, make a transformation within ourselves, then that affects everything in life.
Yeah,
And for me,
completely.
that's the ultimate to be able to do that. So congratulations to you
And
for
to you,
yeah.
Mikhail. I
Thank
wouldn't
you.
be here
Thank you.
without that.
That's what I've dedicated my life for because it's just so wonderful. Like when you get given a gift, it's really hard not to want to give that gift back in some shape or form. And for the first 2 years back in those days, I lost 80% of my friends because I didn't know how to give that gift back. I just became overbearing and said, "Oh, you're gonna do this. This is gonna change your life. It's like you've been transformed, and everybody else have to do the same thing." And it took me years to
Yeah.
figure out it doesn't work that way because
It's not Amway.
no, it's not anyway. And then eventually I got my feet back on the ground, and then
Yeah,
it took me another number of years of doing all kinds of crazy shit to eventually coming into that place. This is what I'm gonna make my life about. And that's what it's been about ever since I came here to New Zealand 32 years ago. That's what I've been doing full time in various ways, in various domains, but it's still underlying the same thing. And it's just wanting to give that gift back. And I know you want to give the gift back. You want to talk with other people and share what you have, the transformations you've had to inspire other people to make their own transformations in their own way. So thank you so much for coming on today.
my
Is there
pleasure,
anything
Mikhail.
what you want to share with the audience before we turn the microphone off?
No, the only thing I would want to share is that I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity that I've had to look at these things in my life, you know, and it wasn't about picking one thing. Oh, I'm greedy. I want to fix this. Mikhail, help me fix this. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about, oh, I don't have empathy. I want to fight. Mikhail, help me fix my empathy. It wasn't like that. This was about going into a journey and not really knowing what you were going to change.
Mm.
It wasn't about knowing what the outcome was going to be. It wasn't having a defined set of rules that would place me from where I am into that place. It was just about being open to change
Mm.
was the key thing. And you talk about wanting to pass it on to people. I, I get really excited when I notice what's happened to me when the people around you notice the changes in you and then start to make comment. It's one thing to notice, it's another thing for people to make comment about it. And it's another thing for people to engage in it. And so I understand. Yeah, I'd love to pass this on. I also don't want to be a pain in the ass either. This is how you change your life. This is what you do. This is, if I can share a story that makes a difference like I did yesterday,
Mm.
even to to share the burden with the person, or let them know, just keep going.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
It's a fine line. And again, how do we know whether when we are walking on that fine line, we do that by walking on the fine line. And then,
yeah,
oops, I overstepped there. I'll pay more attention to that next time. Or, oops, yeah, but, oh, and it's walking the line
it
that
is.
that makes us better at walking on that line, on that fine line. So, thank
Yeah,
you so much, Tony.
my
As
pleasure.
you said at the beginning, we can talk for hours about this. We could make this easily 3 hours long. We're not going to do that, but that doesn't mean you can't come back in a few months' time and we do it again and see what has happened in the meantime. So once
It's
again,
fabulous.
thank you so much for coming on here. Thank you for being open and willing to share your journey with our audience today. And thank you to our audience for tuning in today. All the best for the rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success. If you have stories of how mental fitness has benefited you that you are happy to share, go to my website, mikael.nz, click on podcast and fill in the guest application form. If you want direct support from me utilizing my 40 years of mental fitness learning and practice, email me at coach@mikael.nz or message me on LinkedIn. Any feedback, review, share, follow, like, or any other good stuff is, of course, appreciated. Thank you for listening to Mental Fitness, the Gateway to Success podcast. I'm your host, Mikael Nielsen.